All right, we're jumping right into a major development in application security today, something that could fundamentally change how developers and security teams get their work done. So, let's get to it.
So here's the top story. A new tool called Codex Security is now in a research preview. It's an AI agent designed to find those really complex, tricky vulnerabilities that other tools often just miss. Honestly, it promises to be a total game changer for security teams everywhere.
Okay, so what's the big problem this new agent is trying to solve? Well, it all comes down to a single, major pain point that anybody in security knows all too well: the overwhelming problem of noise.
And this really lays out the core issue perfectly. On the left, you've got the reality for most security teams today, which is just a flood of alerts. A lot of them are false positives or pretty low impact. This creates a massive bottleneck when you're trying to triage everything. But on the right, that's the goal, right? High confidence findings with fixes you can actually act on, which lets teams focus on what really matters. And with software development moving faster than ever, that bottleneck is becoming a critical point of failure.
So how does Codex Security actually cut through all that noise? The key, it seems, is its ability to understand the specific context of each individual system it's looking at. The whole process happens in three main stages. First, the agent builds context. It doesn't just scan random lines of code, it analyzes the entire repository to create a threat model just for that project. It's essentially learning how your application is supposed to work and what it's supposed to trust. Second, it validates the issues it finds. Using that model, it hunts for vulnerabilities and, this part is crucial, it pressure tests them in a sandbox to confirm they're real, exploitable threats. And finally, it patches the issues, proposing fixes that are fully aware of the system's design so you don't end up introducing new problems.
And it actually gets smarter. When a user adjusts how critical a finding is, the agent learns from that feedback. It then refines its threat model for the next scan, which means its precision gets better and better over time, tailored specifically to your team's needs.
Okay, so that all sounds great in theory, but what does the data actually show? Well, the results from the beta testing period are in, and they are pretty darn striking.
In one case, the tool managed an 84% reduction in noise since it was first rolled out. I mean, think about that. That is a massive drop in the volume of insignificant alerts, and it frees up countless hours for security teams to focus on the real threats.
And this visual just illustrates the wider trend brilliantly. Across all the repositories in the beta, the rate of false positives, it dropped by more than half. And even more impressively, findings with over-reported severity, bugs that get flagged as way more dangerous than they really are, they fell by over 90%.
So with all that noise filtered out, what did it actually find? In just the last 30 days of the beta, Codex Security identified 792 critical findings. We're talking about the exact kinds of high-impact issues that keep security professionals up at night. And here's the crucial point. It found those 792 critical issues by scanning over 1.2 million commits. The fact that these major threats showed up in less than 0.1% of the code, well, that just shows you how surgical this tool is. It's not a sledgehammer, it's finding the needles in a gigantic haystack.
An early partner, Netgear, put it this way. Their head of product security, Chandan Nandakamaraya, said it felt like having, and I quote, an experienced product security researcher working alongside us. That's about as powerful an endorsement as you can get.
Now, the impact here doesn't just stop with private companies. Let's take a look at how this technology is being used for the foundational code that pretty much all of us rely on: open source software.
For open source projects, the problem isn't a lack of people reporting potential bugs. The real challenge is the sheer volume of low-quality, speculative reports that just create this enormous triage burden for maintainers who are often just volunteers. They need fewer false alarms, not more of them.
And that is where Codex Security has already had a major impact. It's reported critical vulnerabilities to some of the biggest names in open source. We're talking about fundamental projects like OpenSSH, PHP, and Chromium. I mean, this is software that underpins huge parts of the entire internet.
For anyone wondering how to get access, the tool is now rolling out in a research preview to ChatGPT Enterprise, business, and education customers.
And that brings us to our final thought here. Tools like this are clearly not just about finding bugs faster. They're about shifting the focus of human experts away from that tedious triage work and towards higher-level strategy. So as AI gets better and better at securing our code, the really big question is, how will the role of the human security expert evolve right alongside it?
Now that's something to keep an eye on.